Great. All right. I think we are good to go. Robert Swartwood here. I'm here with my good friend, Adam Perry. I'm not
Nice
saying
to meet
that,
you.
yes, exactly. Nice to meet you. I know. Well, and that's the thing. We have actually known each other for quite a while. I always try to remember how it is we met, which is something that we can discuss in a bit. Because I know that, I mean, we went to high school together. I don't know, maybe middle school too, but you're a couple of years
I
behind
was there
me.
K to 12. Were you K to 12?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean
Yes.
I probably knew you in some way since I was in kindergarten. Yeah, I think you were 3 years ahead of me, right? You're like
Man, it feels so old
I don't,
already.
I don't want to say your age here, but I feel like you're 3 years older than me.
Yeah, it's
You would have
yeah.
been you would have been class of 2000, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was
Class of 2000.
2003. So yeah, there you go.
Man. All right. Well, anyway.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
and our
So
school was about the size of this basement here. So so
so
I,
um so
when people say
Adam,
you went to high school, I was just at a high school in Texas, and the classes were each over 1,000. And so
yeah.
people need to know that our high school was classes of like 30, which is not like when you say you went to high school, it was like you shared a closet together.
Right. Well, okay. Well, first of all, let me introduce you for people who are not aware.
Okay.
Adam Perry is the author of The Thieving Collectors of Fine Children's Books, which came out.
Oh, you do
Was
have
it?
it.
Which
Okay.
I pulled it out of the stack, which almost fell over, and it might fall over while we're talking. This came out last year, 2 years ago.
March 2001.
Okay, so this came out last year. Also, the author of The Magicians of Elephant County, which came out a couple years ago, right?
2018, almost exactly 4 years ago this week.
Almost. Okay. Also, the co-author of the Big Book of Horrendous Diseases,
Yes.
which is a big picture book, fun picture book. And of course, he is the author of Ghosts Come Rising, which was just released today. Isn't in bookstores everywhere. If you follow Adam on social media, he's been posting pictures of, I think
Posting
at the
lots.
Lancaster Barnes and Noble, they have a crap load of books where are already signed and ready to go. And for
And at
a deep
Aaron's books.
dive, and of course Aaron's books, and of course as a deep dive for real Adam Perry fans, he's the also author of Mr. Ray, which came
Yeah, there you
out
go.
like a decade ago. Has it been a decade ago now?
Over a decade ago. Yeah. Yeah.
2011. Yeah,
My
so it's been
my
over.
big plan was to like re-release it with the new cover and everything at the 10-year anniversary, which would have been summer of 2021, but it was like 2 months after this book came out, so I was afraid that might like I didn't want to be promoting that re-release when my actual new book was out. So I didn't.
Right.
That's my excuse, at least, for not doing it. Someday I will do it, probably in the next few years.
So yeah, so we've known each other for quite a long time. Um, I didn't really prepare anything because again, we know each other so
You don't
long.
need
I
to
mean,
prepare
all of your books I've read. I'm pretty sure I've read like early drafts of. You read my work early. We always kind of critique each other's stuff. We hang out occasionally
yeah,
whenever you're able to get
not
away
as much
from
as we should.
whenever you're getting away. Like I know you have like a gazillion kids. Well,
Yeah,
three. Well,
the
anyway,
Jack
yeah.
Russell
So
Terrier back here.
and exactly. In fact, I see that you moved to Seattle, which is really
Yep.
cool. I was not aware of that. So, we're going to talk, of course, about the most recent novel, which, by the way, I mean, people really do need to check it out. It is probably my favorite of Adam's books so far. I've enjoyed all of his books. All his books are great, but this
Thank
one,
you.
I don't know. There's something very different about this book in a way that I think you really you hit a home run on this one.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's the first book I wasn't trying to be funny with, so I don't know if that's
it is
something
it
that I
is
should
more
know. Yeah.
serious, absolutely. But let's start with the just I guess kind of how you got into writing. This is now your fourth book, I guess, or
Yeah, it depends how you
um
count. Traditionally published is my third. If you count my two self-published books, it's my fifth. So it's kind of
yeah.
hard to.
So yeah, so let's kind of talk about kind of like how you guys started. Again, we have known each other for quite a long time. um just yeah, I mean, what was kind of the first thing that kind of got you into writing?
Yeah, so I mean, I wanted to be a writer originally. I think in third grade, I remember writing a short story and having that kind of like feeling when you're writing that like words are just coming, you're seeing it in your head, and it's kind of like an intoxicating thing. So I sort of wanted to be a writer there, but it seemed like such a big thing you had to do to write a book. It almost seemed like impossible. And I also like to draw, so I sort of, I think, modified my dream at the time, and I wanted to be a newspaper cartoonist. So, that was a nice way to do a little bit of writing, a little bit of drawing. I wasn't a very good drawer, not enough to be like a professional cartoonist in the booming newspaper markets that are currently out there. But I still, we had a mutual friend in high school, obviously, who worked at the newspaper in like the teen section. So I got involved with him in middle school or high school. I guess I was 16 at the time. And I started
doing. Who was
it? Noah.
Okay, that's right.
He was like the teen editor of the teen page, and we have a local newspaper in Lancaster. It's the main newspaper in Lancaster, and they had a teen page, and I just kind of like shoehorned myself in as the cartoonist because that's what I wanted to be. So I had a weekly strip on that page for 5 years, and like every Saturday it was like right above the movie listings, which is a good placement, honestly. And so,
do you still have those? I mean, is that something where you can like compile those? That because that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, let me pause my video for a second. Hang on, you can still hear me, right?
Yes.
I just didn't want you to see me walking away in Fraser's house. This is a really deep dive, really deep dive. So this is I guess my 6th book. This is my comic strip. It was called Nerds, Etc. It was about 3 high school nerds, yeah, this has the first like 4 years. It doesn't have the last year, but I still have them all somewhere.
Is that I mean, is that still available anywhere?
I think it might be on Amazon and like really expensive like listings from third-party people, but I don't think it can be bought anywhere, honestly. but yes, I have like 50 copies still, so maybe I'll give them away at some point in my career. I'll give you a copy if you want one.
Or at the very least, I mean, you should look into maybe re-releasing that. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to have.
I mean, they're not great. Let me show you my very first cartoon that I did.
Don't oversell it.
It says there's a guy in a store. He's got really big glasses on, a mustache, and a big nose, and he's holding a pair of those novelty things with the big nose and the glasses and the mustache. And he says, "Those will look hilarious on me." So that's what you're getting.
It's good. It's really cute. No, I mean, I think it'd be cool, especially, I mean, when you do like school visits, you'd be like, hey, when you were in school, you were doing these. Be an inspiration for kids.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of taught me to like have a deadline. I felt like at the time, if I ever missed a week, they would forget about me and they wouldn't put my comic in anymore. So like there was a lot of weeks where I didn't have any ideas. I'd have to just write something every Tuesday. I'd have to have it in for Saturday. And it just kind of forced me there's a lot of comics in there that I clearly had no idea what I was supposed to, what I could write that week. And it got me in kind of the habit from age like, 15 to 20 to carry something with me to like write in when I had an idea, which is, served me well. And that kind of discipline of always sitting down and writing, even if you don't have an idea or inspiration, certainly helped.
And so for people, I mean, again, you mentioned our high school was very, very small. We did not really have a high school paper, but a couple of kids in my grade decided that we were going to kind of create like an underground paper, which was like a one sheet type thing. You did stuff for that, correct? If I remember correctly.
I did cartoons for that. That was actually, that might be, now that I'm thinking about it, that might be like before I did that comic strip. And then like, obviously Noah would have been involved with that paper, right? I think.
Yeah.
And I did my own.
Noah was definitely part of that.
Yeah, I think you were maybe in high school and I was in middle school, and I tried to do like a copy version of yours for middle school. And I made the terrible mistake where I reviewed a movie that was like, I think either PG or PG-13. And one of the teachers, who I still think of as like a comic book villain in my head to this day. I don't know what she's doing now. I hope she's.
Oh, I think I know who you mean. Because I think she's the one that shut down our paper.
Well, she shut down my paper.
Because we I mean, it was so stupid. We were basically, we put it together, and then we were basically just using the school copier machine to make copies, and apparently that was a big no. That
Yeah.
got
Well, it's
I
like
don't think
one
most of the
yeah.
staff cared, but yeah, there were a
No,
few
it was
teachers
this
that
one
were
teacher.
awful.
Yeah. Yeah. So the small school was a small conservative school. It was very conservative, just to say the least. So I was told by the principal, like, look, you can still have your paper. We'll support it as long as you only write about sports and like no comics, nothing, nothing about movies or art or anything. And I'm like, I have no interest in sports. So that was the end of it. I briefly like considered, would everyone pay me like $1 and I'd mail it to them? And no one was actually interested to shell out money, which is, I think the story of an artist's life.
Absolutely. All right. So, okay. So you came up, you were mostly doing comics and drawing. At what point did you transition? I mean, you still do, obviously. For people who are not aware, Magicians of Elephant County features actually your own artwork on the insides. Now, you did not do the cover, but there is artwork on the inside, which you had done. I believe actually it's the same thing with Thieving Collectors too, right? You did
there's
the
one big
well?
spread in Thieving Collectors that I did, and then in Ghost Come Rising, there's a lot of illustrations that are image manipulation instead of.
So, I mean, you're still obviously doing the illustrations, but at what point did you kind of transition into the narrative prose of actually, the telling stories? I mean, we talked before about Mr. Ray. Was Mr. Ray maybe like the first book or the main thing you've done, or like, what else was going on?
Right. Yeah. So Mr. Ray, I wrote when I was 19, and a couple things happened that led to this book coming out, which was, like I said, I thought books were like too much to write, and I thought it was like an impossible thing. And my comic career was coming to an end. I was kind of growing out of my teenage years, so I didn't really have like a venue to put it on. Newspapers were not in a great state. I was like sending off comics, but not getting a lot of good response from that because my art wasn't great. I don't think my writing was quite up to snuff. And I don't think I would be happy as a daily cartoonist where you're drawing the same thing every day and trying to tell a different joke every day. I feel like that would drive me nuts. So I was like, okay, comics aren't for me. And I had this sort of epiphany at one point when I was 18 or 19 where I was very big into video games, and I was posting on this video game forum. I know I'm like revealing myself to be very cool at the moment. But it kept a count of your posts. So it said like, had your username, and it said like you posted 1,000 times or something. So at a certain point I realized another coinciding thing at this time was I read Fahrenheit 451. I got the numbers right there, right? 451. Yeah. I heard somewhere that it was 47,000 words, and I was like, okay, so that's what you need. That's the bar for a novel, right? That's kind of what I thought. Like it needs to be close to 50,000 words. So I did this math in my head where I'm like, okay, most of my posts that I do on this video game forum are probably like 50 words long, and I've done over 1,000 posts, so I've already written like 50,000 words about absolute nonsense, like totally useless words. So it kind of like got me over this mental barrier, like, oh, I can write 50,000 words because I've done it about like nothing, just little bits every time. So yeah, I was just finishing high school at the time. I just got my first laptop for college. So I sat down and just wrote a little bit every time. And this book is actually, I don't know how close. The first draft was very close, like almost down to like 100 words to the length of Fahrenheit 451. So I just knew that like I had to hit that metric to be a novel. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting tidbits there about the way my brain works, at least.
So how long did it take you, from start to finish, if you can even remember, because it has been a while?
Yeah, I mean, to write the book, I think I did it in like 3 or 4 months for this one, but the first draft was like really, really bad as first drafts go. And then I revised it a little bit, and then I didn't actually self-publish it until I was, I think, 26. So it was like 7 years that it sat on my computer, and I just decided to do it because it was like, at the time in 2011, like everyone was buying Kindles, ebooks were a big thing, and I was like, oh, I have this book sitting here. Maybe people would want to read it. I didn't know if it was any good. I had tried to like send it off to agents back when I was 19, which is like the days of still, and I know you remember this, sending out like query letters to agents in envelopes with self-addressed stamped envelopes and all that kind of stuff, which is very different now. didn't really get any response back in the
Well,
day.
I will say yes. My first for me, my first agent was back in those days, and when we submitted the manuscript, I actually had to provide like 10 manuscripts that I had to then mail to the agency, at which point they would send those out to each publisher.
Oh my god.
And the publisher would mail those. It was a whole thing.
I never got
And
that
then
far in the print days.
and then if assuming you sold the book, which in my case I did not at the time, um the cost of all that, the postage or whatever else would come out of your advance. So it was,
Wow.
and now of course, yes, they just email, they just
Yeah.
email the
I mean,
manuscripts out. It's
in the last like
nuts how it used
6
to be.
months, publishing has gotten into technology, so it's very exciting for all of us.
Exactly. So do you feel like with Mr. Ray, when you sat down, and the same thing with the rest of your books, like do you outline, or do you kind of just have an idea or maybe a character and you just sit down and kind of just going? I always hate the terms, but there's the plotter or pantser. I mean, how do you view yourself?
Yeah, so I think I've struggled to kind of come up with a process throughout it, but now that I've written a few, I think it's clear to say that I'm a pantser on the first draft, because I feel like I don't want to outline too much. And I have tried. I've just outlined a book without doing this first, so we'll see if that hurts me. But I like to really just like let it all out, try to create those like raw ingredients, try to run into big obstacles, try to like hit problems, solve the problems, write myself into a corner. And without fail, I'd say it starts off pretty strong. By the second act, it starts kind of going downhill. By the third act, I have no idea what's happening. Nothing makes sense anymore. I rarely even finish my first draft. It's just like, and then a few things are going to happen. It's going to end. But that kind of gives me enough to then make an outline. And I feel like there's a lot more organic things. I feel like it's less predictable because I didn't know what was going to happen when I was writing it originally. So I'm kind of like a hybrid. I plot my pants. That's the wording.
Do you have any idea though, where you're going to eventually head up? Like, I always use the Harlan Coben example where he said it's kind of like doing a cross country trip. He knows he's going to be starting in Jersey. He's going to end up in California. He doesn't know how he's going to get there or what's going to happen along the way, but he at least has that idea of what the ending or a faint idea of what that ending is going to be. Or for you, do you still not even have an idea of where you're going to end up?
I think it's more like I start in Pennsylvania. I want to end in California. I do that, but in the course of it, I think, oh, maybe I should go to Texas. And then my second draft, I had to Texas. Like I always have an idea where it's going to end, but it never actually is the ending. I always find something in that like pantsed version of the first draft where I don't know what I'm doing, where I decided to kind of take it in a different direction. Like the one I'm working on now, I thought I knew how it was going to end. It didn't. It's not going to end that way anymore. So like, yeah, I always have an idea, but so far it's never stuck. It's never struck with it.
So let's talk about the new book, Ghosts Come Rising. This is a different book for you. Again, it's the first two, at least that were published by the publishers. They're more humorous. Even Mr. Ray was humorous. This one, I mean, there's some humor in it, but it is much more serious. Did you feel comfortable kind of changing? Because by that point, most of your stuff had been along the more humorous end, as opposed to this is, kind of a new direction. I mean, again, you've only written a couple books, but still, you at least had a certain type of style, whereas this book is different. So like, kind of, can you just talk about how that kind of worked out, or how you kind of felt about how just kind of moving in that direction, and whether or not that was easier or maybe harder?
Yeah, like when I look at them now and they're done and the covers are made, like it definitely seems like a big departure, but it didn't feel like a big departure when I was writing it because Magicians of Elephant County has a lot of magic history in it. The whole title of like elephant is kind of based on Houdini hiding an elephant. That was one of his big showpiece things. So I did a lot of research into magic history, and Houdini shows up in like mediumship a lot because he was a known debunker, and that all kind of comes into that same interest in spiritualism and everything. So to me, when I was writing it around the same time as Magicians and Thieving, it all kind of felt like a similar world. There's like magician history, there's spiritualism, but like when I look at it now, it does feel like it's very serious. And I think that seriousness is kind of like the topic kind of demands it. When you're dealing with death and a spiritualist commune and people that think they can, speak to the dead and cross over in thin places and everything. It's hard to make that really funny. Like I think you have to take it a little bit more seriously. I wouldn't want to take that topic lightly, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is, I've had a few books out, none have been like a breakout hit. So I feel like I'm kind of like course correcting. Like I want to try something funny, see how that does. Try something serious, see how that does. Maybe that's not a great way to handle things, but that's definitely how I've done it so far.
So, I mean, most of everything that you've done so far has been middle grade.
Yeah.
Do you just feel comfortable with that? I mean, do you find that the stories or the ideas you have just kind of lend themselves more towards the middle grade genre or readership? Because obviously you wrote Mr. Ray, I think before you had your first kid, right?
Yeah.
How old's your oldest right now? So
my oldest is 8. Almost
okay.
9.
Yeah. Okay. So like you definitely wrote that before you had your first son. So I mean, at what point did you, is that one of the reasons now, because you are a father, because you have 3 children, that you kind of feel like you want to write books more for that age group? Or I know that you and I have discussed.
No, it's weird. I mean, I've always wanted to write. Yeah, I've always wanted to write for kids. I don't know. I mean, long before I had kids, my mom was an elementary librarian. Every day after school, I'd sit in the elementary library and read books. Like one of my core early memories was like an author visit at the preschool I went to. Tommy DePaulo came, which was a big author. I mean, still a big author. He passed away a few years back. But that was like amazing to me. Like this guy who wrote books and drew. So that was like, like a really cool opportunity to meet him when I was younger. So I like, like the comics and everything, I kind of wanted to be I wanted to write comics. I wanted to do animation, which I like the Pixar movies, which is kind of like, the age range of 8 to 12. So I've always had that. And, people have asked like, if you're going to write an adult book, and I definitely might. I've definitely had adult book ideas. I have like 2 or 3 right now that I've kind of like synopsised out, but I feel like I've never quite had like the passion to start one yet. Like whenever I get an idea that I like for middle grade, like I know we're not going to talk about it, but the one that I'm working on now, I write a synopsis for that and I'm like, yes, I want to work on that tomorrow. So I kind of let my this is what I want to work on guide me a little bit, because if you don't have passion about a project, it's hard to sit down every day and write about it. You know that as well as I do.
And that actually reminds me, a while back, I don't even know how long ago it was, you and I briefly talked about writing something together. I don't know if you remember.
I do remember, because it's very similar to another one that I've outlined and
yes.
share with you.
Well,
that's not what I'm talking about.
A portion of it is the other portion. I know, because I had read that outline you sent me as well. There's other in there too, but I think, and that was more just because I typically write the adult, so I forget why it kind of fell apart. I think we just had 2 different visions of what we wanted to do with it, but it was still a fun idea.
Do you want to talk about it? I'll talk about it.
Yeah, you want to talk about just kind of like, you came to me basically with the simple pitch. Okay. And it was just 2 words, quite honestly.
Yeah, here's the simple pitch. And it came from an interview that I saw with the then president of the Discovery Networks. I think it was Discovery. And he said that the 2 things keeping them afloat were Nazis and sharks, because like they ran a lot of programs. This was like 10 years ago. A lot of programs on Nazis, a lot of programs on sharks. That's what kept them afloat. So I was like, we got to write a book on Nazi sharks, obviously from the perspective that they're bad, right? I want to get that out. So yeah, we talked about this book. I wanted to like make it like over the top, like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, like actually call it like Nazi sharks. I think you wanted to take it more serious, like.
Well, I think there are good sharks on both sides. So we no. My idea for it was more kind of like a Independence Day type over the top. So it's like we kind of played it a little bit serious, but it was still over the top. And I remember, in fact, somewhere here on my computer, I'm sure we even have like we started like a couple chapters in Outline. I mean, it got a little farther than
Yeah. Yeah. I
we would
mean,
have
I
thought.
think so. Like, I wanted to call it Nazi Sharks and a sequel to like Night of the Nazi Sharks and like Return of the Nazi Sharks, like that kind of vibe. I think you were like, you wanted to call it like Red Tide. And I'm like, no one's gonna, I mean, like, I don't know.
I didn't
Like,
know. I don't think it was the Red
you
Tide.
got,
I
I
don't
mean,
think it was.
I'm of the Chuck Tingle approach of naming,
All right.
you know.
Well, we could spend a lot of time talking about a book that's never going to happen, but let's talk about
But
with
I have
yeah,
not gotten rid of my shark obsession, as you know, because I one of
this
my
is
ideas
true.
involves
This is
sharks and
true.
stuff. That's I'm not gonna say anything more about it, but I do still love sharks. In fact, this is my monitor, my big monitor here. I have a little shark that I keep at my desk.
Very nice.
So he's always
So
looking at
with
me.
so I want to go back to magicians. In this one, you essentially had two main characters. You had there was a boy and a girl. Two different narrators were going on in Thieving Collectors. You essentially had one male protagonist, a boy, and then in the most
And then
recent
there's a
one,
book within a book, and there's a boy and a girl main character in the book within a book.
right. Well, okay, that's true. But the main character, more or less, is the
Sure.
boy. In this one, the main character, and not only that though, this one is from the also first person point of view from a young girl.
Yes.
So, can you talk a little bit about just how you kind of decide on, how you decide on the characters for each book? And did you feel comfortable, writing this book from the female point of view, seeing as
Yeah.
you are a male in your mid 30s, I guess, at this point?
Yeah. Yeah. My early 30s. Um, if no one can do math. Yeah, I mean, it's not my first time writing first person from a girl because Magicians has competing first person narratives. So the two characters in Magicians, Duncan and Emma, have first person back and forth, and they kind of contradict each other. And it breaks my heart whenever I go into like a bookstore and I see someone ask for a recommendation for a book and they say like, I want a book about this, this, and this, and the bookseller says, I have just the book for you, and they pull it out, and the kid looks at it or the parent looks at it and says, "Oh, it's the girl's. There's a girl main character. We're not going to get it for him, or we're not going to get it for her because it's a boy main character." So I feel like I've tried to like make it with Magicians you had a main character that's a boy and a girl. So I thought like spread the bets a little bit. Same with Thieving Collectors, not told from a first person perspective. For this book, I felt like it just needed to have a girl as the main character, and there is also like there's her brother's a big character in the book as well. He's not a first person narrator in the same way as like Magicians, but there's always kind of like a back and forth with that. And I think also maybe it comes from I never had a brother growing up. I have one sister, so there's the main character and her younger brother. So maybe it has something to do with coming from a one boy, one girl family. I'm not sure, but it always tends to be the family dynamic or the character dynamic in the books.
Did you do a lot of research for this book? Because it is, I guess, in a way, a historical fiction. It's not like
Yeah,
it's present day.
so I'm glad you asked because that's the reason that I'm drinking this beer here on launch day. It's because this was brewed in Ephrata, much like much of the book here. So yeah, Ghost Come Rising was based a little bit off, and I would show you this big giant tome I bought from the Ephrata Historical Society, but it's actually keeping my monitor at the correct height, which I'm not going to take out. But I have the Ephrata Mountain Springs Volume 2, the later years, 1882 to 2004, which is a big book that was made by the Historical Society. But here's a smaller one about the same topic. This is Ethel Post Parrish, who ran a spiritualist commune in Lancaster, where we live, or where you used to live, I guess, and where I live now. So this is kind of a little bit the basis of the book. The events of this, took place a little bit after my book. This was like 1940s and 50s. My book takes place in the 20s. I've changed names, I've changed location, I've changed everything. So, but Ethel Post Parrish also ran a spiritualist commune, and I feel like I can find it. She had a spiritualist guide named Silver Bell. In my book, it's the Silver Star, but you can see her here. And the hotel is still technically around. I think it's like a Marriott or something, or a Holiday Inn. This was the hotel in Ephrata. This is about 20 minutes north of where I live. But again, no longer here. But this was the Spiritualist commune in our town. So I first found out about this through the Lancaster Historical Society. I just went through it one time, probably 15 years ago, and I saw a big display on spiritualism and spirit photographs. Here's Ethel Post Parish with spirit trumpets and ectoplasm, which looks a lot like a sheet to me. That's like a photograph. I don't know if you can see that coming out, and there's a trumpet holding it up. But it, by today's eyes, looks obviously very photo manipulated. But kind of, I guess, convinced people back in the day. They certainly believed it there. So I did a lot of research on spiritualist communes. There's one in New York called Lilydale. There's just a lot kind of in the history. There's the Fox sisters from the 1800s. I did research on a very popular spirit photographer named William Mumler, who was more late 1800s than where I'm setting it. I set it in 1920 because it was right after Spanish flu, right after World War I, when there was kind of a resurgence in spiritualism, just because of the large amounts of deaths and stuff. And, I should also mention, writing this book on COVID year. So that was definitely kind of all playing together. I had it planned out before. It was going to take place after Spanish flu, World War I, and then COVID happened. And it was like, I got to buckle down and write this because it felt like predestined or something. So that's a long answer.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to get into this. And I can't even really tell if you were being serious or not, but do you still have that thing where you feel like you can't, like if a book takes place in the winter, you can't write it during the summertime?
I definitely still have that. I was being serious. I don't know if I can't. I feel like I shouldn't. I feel like mood wise, if I'm going to write a summer book, I got to write it in the summer. I got to be like out on my deck in the warm weather. Like, and I schedule my writing around this too. Like there are times I'll break out of it, but like I'm writing a book that definitely takes place in the summer now. I got my whole first draft done in the summer. I'll do my second draft like in the fall, winter, but it's gonna feel weird, I can't believe you don't feel this way. I can't believe anyone doesn't feel this way. And I'm also working on a very snowy book. I have that planned, like when I'm going to work on it. It's got to be like in January, February, because I need to be cold when I'm writing it. Like I need to feel that. I couldn't write that in like July. That'd be impossible. I honestly, I can't believe anyone feels otherwise. But maybe it's like, and you grew up in Lancaster, but like California people, I don't know how they write like holiday movies when it's 70 degrees around Christmas. I don't know. I'm a very four seasons guy. I'm four different people throughout the year. There's fall Adam, there's winter Adam, there's summer Adam, there's spring Adam, right? I got them out of order.
Well, I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to go back to
this, over that one. You're like,
to this book. Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that. When we go back to this book,
I think a lot of people will agree with me. I don't think I'm the weird one here.
Okay, sure. Is this going to be like, if I remember correctly, like, are you going to be doing more of these? Is there like more? Is there a plan to do more of these types of books, or is this just
not of the Brendas diseases? Yeah. I mean, I might do more picture books. I don't, whether that's traditionally published or self-published, I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing that. That book actually is interesting. It started as an app idea. So the guy that I did that with, Matt Quickle, he works in the video game industry. He's an art designer. I don't know if I have his title correct, but he's a very good artist. We've been friends for a very long time, and he has a brother who's a programmer. I'm a writer and artist. He's an artist. Like several years before that book came out, we sat down and we were going to make like an iPhone Android app, and it was going to be about like creating like big germs that infect the world, and your goal was to like combine these colored germs. They were all like these imaginary diseases, and then you would determine whether or not you won or your points based on how much you infected the world. So we did a little bit of work on it, and it just never really went anywhere. The programming was a lot of work, and I don't know. I'm not really like a video game designer kind of guy. My brain doesn't work that way. But Matt and I made a lot of good art, I felt like, and I thought it was funny. So I wrote kind of the rhymes for it, and I said, like, let's just make this into a picture book. So we did that, and that was kind of the history of that. And then he and his brother actually went on to make an iPhone app without me, cutting me out of the process. So I was probably the problem. And that's called Splatty Cat, and you can get that on Android only. So I've never played it because I don't have Android. I have iPhone.
That's right. iPhone for life.
I mean, I want to play it. I just have no way to play it. I always feel bad when I talk to them. Like I can't. I have literally zero Android in my life.
So going back to Ghost Come Rising, I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but there's a couple twists in this book. Did you know some of those going into it, or was that one of those things where you were surprised at, as you were writing it, or
I will. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a great example of it where I had a very different twist in mind. I'll say that the twist that came out was not what I expected. But I don't want to say anymore because I think it would definitely give something away. And there was also very different subplots before. There was a time when there was going to be like a serial killer in the book. So it's changed dramatically. Like a lot of books like this and Magicians, I feel like I have the general or like the idea kind of shapes over time. Whereas when I saw that display at the museum about spiritualism and spirit photography, I kind of knew exactly the setting and the place and the topic, where that's not something I usually get for free at the beginning of a book. And this one, I feel like it all came prepackaged. And it was just, what do you do with the plot now? Like, how do you make a plot out of spirit photography? And I thought Middle Grade was great for that, because there's something I feel like if you are writing a book about spirit photography, and I've read a few in the adult realm, where there's typically an adult that's creating spirit photographs and conning people, or there's someone being conned or tricked. I feel like it's hard to be sympathetic, but I think if you have a child who's put in a situation where a family member is making them create these fake spirit photographs, and they have a certain level of guilt about it, and they have a certain level of like, not sure, it makes them feel kind of jaded towards religion, towards afterlife, towards everything. I think that's a more interesting place to start. So I think like that's actually one of the reasons I feel like I get excited to write for kids, is I think in a lot of ways smarter. Kids are more honest. Kids have a lot more emotions. So I've always kind of just been interested in that. Like, I don't think I would have been able to find a good hook or a good angle for spiritualism for adults. Maybe that's because I'm jaded or something, but yeah.
Interesting. And I know you don't want to talk about any upcoming projects, but I know that we had talked before that true, but you were, do you think that you might do a sequel of this type of book? Or, I mean, is that a possibility?
I mean, it's always a possibility. I think it always depends on sales and what the publisher wants. I mean, if the publisher called me tomorrow, that published this book and said, it's doing great, we want a sequel, I have an idea. Like I'll start sitting down and working on it.
Okay, so you at least do have an idea that you would be able to.
I have an idea. Yes, I have an idea. Maybe I haven't told you that one. I'll have to tell you that one offline. But I think going back to kind of like wanting to kind of spread my bets and have different things. I really enjoyed writing quote unquote horror. I don't know if this really falls into horror or like historical horror or something, but writing in that space was really fun. So I have a horror idea that I'm working on now that's not historical. And I have kind of in my back pocket what I would do if there ever wanted to be another, spiritualist book. And you were actually at my launch event like last week, and Matt Quickle was there, who I worked on Horrendous Diseases with, and he asked a question about like modern technology, which kind of actually got me thinking, could a spiritualist book be written from a modern perspective, talking about deep fakes, talking about AI generation tricking people? That kind of got me thinking in like a whole different realm. Like, would a spiritualism book need to necessarily be set in the 1800s or 1900s? Could it be set in the 2030s or something? So I have a lot of things always going through my head, and a lot of things never come to fruition.
So I got interested, and I'm actually looking here on Amazon. Publisher seems to have the book listed under children's mystery and detective books, 1900s American history, and U.S. historical fiction.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. I mean, there's a detective subplot through the book for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if oh, and then actually the hard that was for the Kindle. The hardcover also has it listed here for children's spine-chilling horror, and also children's mystery, spy, detective, and spy. So, I mean, personally, for me, and again, I mean, publishers are going to market it any way that they are. I would say it's more supernatural suspense. I don't kind of see it as horror,
yeah, I can see that
but I
too.
see it more as like a supernatural suspense, maybe thriller, but I feel like it's more of a suspense type thing.
Yeah,
but it's interesting. I
I'll
mean,
say that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Like I feel like with my other books, I'm always trying to like pack as much into it. This was a book that I was trying to kind of let breathe a little bit, like not try to pack like so much plot and so many characters and so much craziness in. Like Thieving Collectors, I think that was like a kitchen sink book where I threw everything in. So this book, I wanted to kind of like step back a little bit and like let it be more about ambience and like mood and setting a scene and kind of building it that way. So I was just kind of trying to do something a little different there.
Yeah, no, and I think you did a great job. It was definitely, again, I mentioned it at the start. I've loved all your books. I feel like this one absolutely is your best so far, at least my favorite
I really
so
appreciate
far.
that. Thank you.
It definitely is a different direction from your other books. But again, it works really, really well. And yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, you essentially have one setting. I mean, and it's not really giving anything away, but essentially the book takes place mainly in one area. So it's not like you're jumping all over the place. You essentially have one cast of characters that don't really change much. Yeah. Whereas opposed to with the other books, they were busy, I guess. Is a good way to say it.
It's maximalist approach versus minimalist approach. There's a show I like called Frasier, which you might be able to tell. And Frasier has one of the, I don't know if you've ever seen the episode where he's trying to write the theme song for his show, and he has like a full orchestra and a full band, and he says, "This is like my life motto. So this is why this is important. Why I have this background. This almost seems pre-planned." He says, "If less is more, just imagine how much more and more will be." That's kind of been my approach for some of my other books. So,
are you excited about the Frasier reboot or whatever it is that they're doing?
No, because John Mahoney's the heart of the show, and he's obviously not going to be in it.
I will say, when it comes to sitcoms, I thought Frasier had one of the best series finales, because oftentimes series finales kind of fizzle out. But I thought the way that they ended it, that last scene or whatever, was really clever.
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, it could go. I don't know. Look, I could talk for another hour about Frasier, but look. Frasier can be a compelling character without Niles, without his dad. Obviously, he was on Cheers with another good cast of characters. So it's all going to depend on who they cast as the supporting characters in the new show. I'm very skeptical though. Can magic hit 3 times? I don't know.
So I have to send you a. I think it was Conan O'Brien talked about to one of the creators of Cheers, and they actually talked about how Kelsey Grammer's character even came about, because it was almost like it wasn't even gonna, you know what I mean? Like it was just very.
Well, he was supposed to be like in 1 or 2 episodes, and then he just stuck around. So it's kind of amazing.
He just stuck around, and then they ended up doing a whole spin-off of him. It's really incredible.
And it's the most Emmy-winning comedy, 37 Emmys or something. So that's what I feel like my writing career is. I just want to like sneak my way in. People think he's going to be around for 2 days, and then he just never leaves.
So right now, I guess
he's a little pompous. He's a little.
So right now, I guess you can't really talk about what's next, because nothing really is in the pipeline, or is there nothing you can really discuss yet?
There's things that I'm working on. I have like 3 books that I'm working on off and on. Like I'm kind of like bouncing between. Nothing's finished. I have nothing under contract at the moment, so I'm kind of a completely free agent. So hopefully that will change soon. But I don't know what the next book will be. I know it's probably going to be one of the 3 things I'm working on, if there is the next book. Fingers crossed. yeah, there's nothing
And
I
so
can say.
let's talk about about your viral moment recently. Actually, not really your viral moment. It was your son's viral moment, which I was
I
thinking
took the
about it.
picture. I've been taking
You've
all the royalties.
you've this isn't the first time you've had something go viral. Like, I don't know
No, it's
if
not.
you've,
It's not.
yeah, like you've had, I remember you, you had gotten your wife, um, a Coach bag, but it was a bag that had from the sitcom Coach on it. And I
Yeah.
remember that went viral.
Yeah, it
And
went
was there another
viral.
instance too of something that had
No,
gone
it's just
viral?
that one. It's just that one. And that was like maybe 6 years ago at this point. So I got her, and well, anyway, yeah, she wanted a Coach bag for her birthday. So I posted this picture of her with like a burlap bag with Craig T. Nelson's face on it. We're just talking about old sitcoms from Coach. So I posted that on Reddit. My wife wanted a Coach bag for her birthday. And Wyatt was in the picture. He was like 2 or 3 at the time. He's laughing. Posted that on Reddit. Got to the first post on Reddit. It got, a lot of attention at the time. It's nothing compared to this new one, but it got picked up. It still gets posted. I still see it occasionally. The Coach bag. I don't know if I'm going to Google Coach bag Reddit and see how if anyone's watching this. I feel like if most people are watching this, they probably already know this story, but
yeah. Well, I guess my question is, in the back of your head,
it's on the first page.
When you do these things in the back of your head, do you always kind of feel like there's potential here that something might happen? Or, because I mean, I've always found that like when you're trying to do something that might go viral, it's never going to happen. It's always that thing where you're not even really thinking about it, and the stars align, it just clicks, and then it just blows up that way.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can share my screen. I'll share this. So no, I guess I can't. It's fine.
No.
If you Google Coach bag Reddit and scroll down a little bit, and you see a woman with a Craig T. Nelson bag, you'll know that's my wife and my son when he's young. So I had been a browser of Reddit for a long time, and I just thought this was a funny idea. The Coach bag thing. I took a picture of it. It was my first post on Reddit. I didn't really know how Reddit worked. I just posted it, and then it just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And then it was like, top post on Reddit for a night. I was getting like 10 messages a minute. It was insane. And this was years ago. And yeah, I mean, I did not know it was going to go viral. And then I was like, oh, I'm just like the viral king at the time. So I posted like pictures of my dogs and stuff. And like, they got like 2 upvotes. So I'm like, all right, forget it. And you know me, I mean, on Twitter, I post all the time, and they get like 5 likes if I'm lucky. So, I mean, that was one that I was not even remotely thinking. And I don't know. I mean, if people don't know what this is my son smiling awkwardly. And then I yell out poop, and then he smiles funny. And then it's a good picture. And I posted the side by side on Twitter, thinking like the same 5 people that like some of my posts would like it and it'd be funny, because it was a very good, like, example of something we've done for years. We yell out poop all the time with this kid to get him to smile, because he's got the funniest fake smile. And then it got some likes. It kept growing. Every hour it was doubling, and it ended around 300,000 likes. It was written up on Good Morning America. The Today Show today wrote about something on the site. Daily Mail, Independent. I mean, it's been insane. It's on Twitter alone, 11 million views. On Reddit, it was first post for a while. Reddit actually locked the post, and they messaged me that I was banned because they said that I was using a stock photograph of a kid, and I had to like literally send them my profiles. Yeah, it was first post, and they removed it and banned me. They've since unbanned me. I had to like send all this proof that like this is actually my child. This is not a stock photograph. I mean, it's my child. I'm not lying.
that is nuts.
No one has a camera this good. Well, I have a camera that good. I
have
a kid that cute.
And some people might find this interesting. I don't know, but we can kind of discuss, because I guess there's this idea that people have where, especially, when things go viral, that's going to be life-changing, especially if you have something like, you're an actor, author, whatever else. Have you seen any positive to like, your book sales or anything like that? Because I mean,
I think it.
I imagine no, because I've had stuff go viral in the past. You know what I mean? Like it just, I mean, even when I had, I had a book out a couple of years ago. It was in one of the tabloid magazines featured, and I did not notice a single bump in sales from having something like that.
When it went viral, people were messaging me on Instagram and stuff saying "Oh, I saw you have a book. This looks great. I'll buy it." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And I talked to my publisher, and the days around, I don't even know if I should say this, but I'm going to. The days around it, I think it sold 70 copies on Amazon, additional to what the other days around it were. So it had a spike of around 70 from the norm. So it's not nothing, but it's not life changing. I haven't made
no. I mean, any sales is great, but I mean, yeah, when you're having 100, how many
11 million views, or there was 4 million views on Reddit. So and then celebrities have Instagrammed it, some celebrity my wife was very excited about, put it on her Instagram story. So it's been seen by a lot, but no, I mean, I haven't made a penny off it. Maybe I could be someone that tried to sell merchandise on it. I don't know who would buy that, and I don't really want to sell.
Yeah, no, that would be weird.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to monetize it. I mean, I have gotten people mentioned in the Good Morning America and today that he's a children's book author, which is nice. They don't mention my book titles, of course, but I mean, absolutely. I did not do it as marketing. I did not, and in fact, if I could go back in time and not post it, I probably would, because I did not necessarily want my child's face everywhere. Which I should have thought about before on Twitter. I mean, I post things a lot on Instagram and Twitter, but it's always been to a very small and modest audience of mostly people that I know. So I wasn't necessarily expecting that. We'll say that.
Yeah. I mean, on the plus side, it was nothing disparaging. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that's, when he gets older, he's going to be really embarrassed or ticked off. I don't think so. So yeah, it shouldn't be.
I mean, by and large, I would say 99.9, everyone's just saying "Oh, how cute he is," and this is great. I'm going to use this on my kids as well. I mean, I think it's been a very positive for Twitter and for the Instagram. I don't really think I've gotten anything negative about it, which is kind of amazing.
I mean, on the other hand, he's going to forever be known as Poop Boy, even probably when he gets married.
Well, he's going to be known as the cute smile boy. Yeah.
Okay. Cute.
Cute,
yeah, we're gonna have to work on the branding there. I'm not sure if that's
I don't want the poop smile boy. I don't know, we'll see.
All right, so we're getting I think we're getting close to being done here. So you want to talk about any recent books you've been reading that you would recommend for people, either middle grade or even adult or
well, I just finished book 3 of Thursday Murder Club, which I loved. That's just a really good as far as kids books go, or as far as adult books go. Sorry. Very fun mystery series. Middle grade, I just finished The Wretched Water Park by Kirsten White, who I actually had the privilege of meeting last weekend. Really good as well. I'm reading The Clackety by Laura Sempf, which is a middle grade horror book. And I'm reading Tryout, which is a graphic novel in the middle grade space by Christina Soontornvat. So that's been great as well. So I'm always reading 4 books at a time, but I will say everything that I have reading is going to take a serious pause this time next week when the new George Saunders collection comes out. So that's my big excitement. Liberation Day.
Yeah.
My favorite book of the. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying, I can testify that you are a huge George Saunders fan. It's almost stalkerish to a point.
Yeah. I mean, he just sold his house. I was taking a look at the cabin, his writer's cabin. So I pay for his story club, which is $50 a year. And one of his posts recently was a tour of his writer's cabin before he moves out. So that was kind of cool. But yes, that is borderline stalkerish, I will say.
Yeah.
And my favorite book of the year has been Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel.
Really Mandel, I think. Yeah.
Probably Mandel. And my another book that I love this year was Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead, which the sequel comes out next summer, which I'm very excited about. So it's been a big reading year for me. I mean, there's a lot I'm not mentioning as well, but
yeah,
and everything you write, of course.
Thank
I
you.
read a book by you slash, you know, and I think you know that I was a big fan of that.
Oh, thanks. I know I sent you a book like a month ago. I haven't heard anything back yet, but whatever. We're not going to get into that right now.
I actually
So.
forgot that you sent me a book like a month ago.
Well, then I think I have a slightly updated version to send you. Then, at the very least, I do want to say that
Let me see
we've
if it's
been
on my Kindle. Let me see. Yeah, send me
well,
a.
okay, I'll
Oh,
send
you know
you an
what
updated
happened?
thing.
I'm looking at it now. Do you know what happened? You sent it to me right around the time I bought The Bullet That Missed, which is the third book in the Thursday Murder Club. And I think your book has bullet in the title as well, right?
It does have bullet in the title. It does, yes.
So I think they got next to each other, and I just like, two bullet books. I never like thought about it.
It's okay. But I do want to say
send me a new one. I'm game.
While we've been chatting, we did get a comment from a Heather Ann who said Adam did an excellent presentation at the elementary level, which was well received by both teachers and students. Highly recommend an author visit. So thank you, Heather, for chiming in. And also, we have a post here from Marilyn Perry, who says that she has a collection of the originals, which I'm assuming is the Nerds that you had there.
I think she's a lot of the newspaper. That's where I'd have to go. I don't know where they are anymore.
Yeah.
I have to steal it from her.
But anyway, so yeah, actually, you want to tell before we end any upcoming events or anything that you want to have people be aware of?
Let me pull up my schedule. Hang on a second. I've done a lot of book events already, but October 29th at 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. I'll be at Midtown Scholar in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. October 29th at 2 p.m. That's the same day, just an hour later. I'll be at Pocket Books in Lancaster. And then October 30th at noon, I'll be at the Barnes & Noble in Lancaster. So
wait, I'm sorry.
If you're in this area, there's a lot of options.
What time on the Midtown Scholar?
11 to 1.
And then Pocket Books. Okay, yeah. Because I'm just saying, okay.
Yeah, it's a 40-minute drive. I'll be all right.
Yeah, just hopefully you don't get pulled over. So that's fine.
Yes. And yesterday, or not yesterday, what day is it? Tuesday. 2 days ago, I was at the Arboretum Barnes & Noble in Austin, Texas, which is the biggest Barnes & Noble I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, you posted pictures of that. That place did look really, really big.
Yeah, it was really big and it was cool. I was scheduled for an hour there. I sat down 20 minutes early because I had to check out of my hotel and I know where to go. And I sold like 7 books before the event started, which was kind of amazing. I was like, wow, this is great. Texas is awesome. Yeah, so fun time there.
All right. So again, the book is Ghosts Come Rising by Adam Perry, in bookstores now. It's a really great book. Everyone should check it out, make it a bestseller. It's good for gifts. So even if you were not into writing or reading middle grade stuff, buy it for a grandkid, buy it for a kid, buy it for your neighbor kid. Look at that! Even without the dust jacket, it has those. Some books don't really have anything exciting underneath the dust jacket. This one does. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it has the title, not my name, and then picture on the back. So.
Now, did you have any were you aware of what they were going to do? Did you have any input on how they were going to do that design?
No, for the interior, that was a complete surprise. I only saw the hardcover for the first time like a week and a half ago. So when I took that off, I was like, wow, look at that. That's very cool.
Actually, did you also do the cover, or was it just the interior?
Oh yeah, I did the image. So someone else did the font, or this is hand lettering. That was a artist who worked there at the time named Natalie Padberg Bardou. She also did the titling for Thieving Collectors, which I did not do the art for this. That was David Santangelo, and Magicians was John Hendricks. But yeah, this one. So what I actually did with this one was there's image manipulated pictures within this book. There's about 10 of them that go along with the story, and I kind of made this one as like a proof of concept. This is the only one that doesn't really depict a scene in the book. I sent this to them as kind of like, here's what. Here's how I'll do the pictures using like all this image manipulation and public domain photos from the Library of Congress. Most of the pictures are here in the book are made up from that. And they liked it and they're like, oh, we'll use it for the cover, which was not necessarily my intention, but I think it fits thematically with the rest of the book. and like the other pictures of things throughout the book.
So actually, speaking of your book, so I have here the very like first page. It has this section right here. Yeah. And this like 3-paragraph thing is kind of it's kind of added like it's like on, you know, typed up on a typewriter. It's like different font. Did you have an input on that? Like, you know, how that was, what was going to be, or they just decided to kind of do it that way?
Well, we had talked about it because there's a prologue after that. So
right.
Like during the editing, they're like, you have 2 prologues. How do we do this? And then in the notes in the Word doc, it's like, we'll just like typeset that first one a little bit differently and then have a prologue.
Okay.
But I didn't know how it would look until I saw the final past pages.
I don't know. Part of me it's always fascinating to me, you know, when you see the finished product, sometimes, you know, how certain things are, you know, came to be. If that was like at a manuscript level or if that was decided later. So I just didn't know if that was something that, you know, you'd had and had.
There was definitely a discussion like, why do you have 2 prologues? And I'm like, well, I kind of need like the character's prologue, but I also need like the setting the stage prologue. And like, you know, I always wanted to have a spirit photograph to start the book, which, you know, we have this guy here with the ectoplasm around this woman, which is what they would call that spirit energy, which was cotton in most cases. But then the next picture is like the behind the scenes picture where you see a blackboard, you see the cutout newspaper print of his face, you see cotton, you see a little mason jar of cotton, and like the old Bellows camera, which, you know, is a real, I actually bought a period authentic 4x5 camera, which is back on my shelf, which you can't see. It's around where Fraser's piano is in my actual office. But
okay. Well, again, I hope if anybody takes it away from here, Adam is a huge Fraser fan. Also,
that's the big takeaway here.
That's the big takeaway. If you remember anything else from this interview, it was that Fraser is his favorite show. But anyway, Ghost Come Rising in bookstores right now. Today is launch day, and actually tomorrow is Adam's birthday. So it would be really great. It'd be a really great present for Adam to it'd be a really great present for Adam to you know, have a bestseller. So everybody go out, buy multiple copies. This is only 1 copy. I have a few others on order.
So there should definitely be, you should have a display copy and a reading copy at least. So I think that's
absolutely put it on your coffee tables for when guests come over. It would be a great conversation starter. So you can say, oh, I saw that that guy talking about Fraser on YouTube. So actually, you know what, I'm gonna have to add that probably to the title on Adam Perry discusses his new book and Fraser. So that should hopefully bump up the search results. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you, Adam, for making time to talk. And we'll see you later.